We go inside the only medical facility in the country to treat Libyans gravely wounded in their fight against the Gaddafi regime. Plus, President Obama and GOP candidate Mitt Romney stumping in the Granite State. And a local musical prodigy playing with some high-profile names, now on Greater Boston. Good evening. They were tortured, shot, and stabbed. 22 Libyan men fighting the Gaddafi regime are here in Salem getting treatment for severe physical and psychological trauma suffered at the hands of Gaddafi's henchmen. The group arrived at Spalding North Shore in Salem on Halloween, the same weekend when New England was hit by a powerful nor'easter. Combine all those factors with a language barrier, the hospital had a lot to deal with. But Jared Bowen reports everything there has been altered to accommodate the men, from meals to medicine to prayers.
These are men ravaged by a revolution. In late October, 22 Libyan men, all rebel fighters wounded while fighting Muammar Gaddafi loyalists, were flown to Spalding Hospital in Salem for rehabilitation. Ranging in age from 16 to 48, the men have suffered extreme trauma, says program coordinator Kevin Love.
Many of these guys have upper body injuries, whether they relate to actual warfare, gunshot wounds, or in fact, in some cases, guys were tortured and abused.
Salim Mohammed is a civil engineer with his own contracting company. One morning in August, he joined a caravan of about 400 men, he says, to attack Gaddafi forces in Al-Josh, a mountainous region in southern Libya. His brother, a videographer, recorded the attack.
I was surrounded by the militia of Gaddafi. By that time, I got injured in my hand.
Manning a gun on the back of a pickup truck, Mohammed came under intense gunfire and was hit by shrapnel. He was carried bloodied and unconscious into a Libyan hospital.
The injury actually it led to a cut of the vessels in my hand, and also injured the nerves and the tendons of my arm.
And how is the pain in your hand?
Today, Mohammed says his rehabilitation treatment has restored much of the use of his hand. In the meantime, he follows updates in Libya intently. He and other patients have access to news, Facebook, and Skype.
I believe that Libya is going to move to the best future. I believe that it will be an election, it will be a constitution, and I believe that Libya will be more advanced.
For now, the U.S. remains their temporary home. All of the men have been placed on the same floor here to keep their sense of community intact. They have an omnipresent translator. Post-it notes turn a walk anywhere into an English lesson, and a room at the end of the hall has been transformed into a place of prayer.
I think it's going very well. People here have worked really hard, from the most simple thing of going on Google and trying to learn a little bit about what the customs are in Libya, what kind of foods people eat, what kind of music they listen to.
All so that they can return in full health to a homeland also on the mend.
All right, with me now is Maureen Banks, president of Spalding Hospital North Shore in Cambridge, and Dr. Ross Zafone, chief of physical medicine at Spalding Rehab. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
So this was actually a federal government program. How did they end up choosing Spalding?
Well, I think that Spalding is known for its work in rehab, both nationally and internationally. We have done a lot of work taking care of the U.S. war heroes. Dr. Savant can address that more directly in terms of his work with the Department of Defense. And we're a large network, so we had the ability with the 4 Spalding hospitals to be able to empty a unit so that all of the wounded men could come and be together.
Did you feel like you had to prepare them? I mean, it was Halloween. You're going to see weird things. I mean, what did you tell them about being here, about being in America?
Well, I think it was a unique experience. As Maureen said, we're well known for our work in polytrauma, which is these war-related injuries. when we went on to the tarmac and got these young men off the C-17, I think they had quite an experience. They had flown for the first time. They came to New England in the middle of a snowstorm, and we drove them through Salem on Halloween.
That is
so it was quite a cultural scenario.
Were they looking around saying, what the?
You know, I think the staff did such a fabulous job protecting them, informing them, accommodating to their cultural needs, and also trying to teach them a little bit about what's going on here. One of the purposes behind getting people better is also making friends.
And did they, first of all, have they been able to, are any of them well enough to actually leave? Have they been able to, you know, kind of assimilate any parts of America other than the hospital?
Not a lot, but a bit. We started gradually. We have a beautiful rooftop garden at the hospital, and a week after, because a lot of the injuries are upper extremities, and as these are young men, we got soccer balls. They're out on the rooftop deck kicking the soccer ball. We were able last weekend to get a bus and take a group that are healthy enough up the coast of Maine so that they could do some sightseeing. And there's varying degrees of injuries. Some of the patients are really still quite sick, are having surgery in some of our sister hospitals, Mass General, Brigham and Women's, that we're working with. So it's a real gamut of injuries.
Yeah, because some of them are strictly war injuries, and some of them are psychological, and some of these guys were tortured as well, right?
Right, and a lot of them have both.
Yeah.
A lot of them have either been tortured or really seen many of their comrades injured or lost in some way, and many of them have the concomitant injuries of war that we typically see, not only PTSD and TBI, but gunshot wounds and peripheral nerve injuries and polytrauma to various orthopedic and vascular areas.
Why Libyans? Why not the Iraqis, the Afghanistans, or Afghanistanis? Why are we doing this now?
Well, I think that we would have responded as we were able to any request from the U.S. State Department. We do a lot of work with the military and would have listened to any requests that we had for help where we have that skill level.
You know, Spalding responds to, as a national and international leader, to virtually all these kinds of scenarios. I had the opportunity to be in Afghanistan in July. We see this as another opportunity to try to help and a service to the State Department as well as these war heroes.
There's only 22. There must be 2,200 that probably have at least that kind of damage and injuries. How do they pick who got to come? Were they important people? Were they everyday Joes? Who were they?
We actually don't know what the selection process was. We were no part of that other than Dr. Zafont was involved in making sure that we had the basic information in order to know that we could care safely and have good outcomes with these men that were coming over.
That's exactly right. We were in communication with the State Department until late into the night each night, talking about just making sure that we had a handle on some of the care needs, but the selection process we actually weren't a part of.
Do they talk about going home? Anybody want to stay?
Would they all talk about going? They are going home. They are so proud in interviews that they've had where they've described what they went through. The war, the deaths of important people to them, their tortures. They've been asked if this was to start over again. Every single one of them has said they would do it again.
You know, this wasn't a professional military, as you saw in the video. These are people coming out of their shops, coming out of their businesses to fight for a cause, which is really quite remarkable.
We have a town meeting every day, and today's town meeting
with the
guys, with the staff, they broke in to the Libyan national anthem at the end of the town meeting. They were at a very positive place in their recovery, and the staff has built such phenomenal bonds with them.
They seem like they're pretty media savvy. They want to watch Al Jazeera or whatever satellite they can get. And were they already familiar with Facebook and all the social media? So this was not new to them.
No, I think what we saw from day one when people got in is they asked about what were the basic rule sets, and how do I get on the internet?
How do I get on the internet? That's what everybody wants to know. That's funny. All right, well, good luck with them. When do you think they'll be able, well, they'll probably go home in
varying time frames depending upon their treatment.
All right. Maureen Banks, Ross Savant, thank you so much.
Thank
you for having us.
All right, when we continue, let's hope they didn't bump into each other, Mitt Romney and President Obama stumping in the Granite State.